Hi, everyone. Hey there. I am not Sean, as you can see by my name tag right there. Chef Sean is not going to be able to join us today because he's stuck in the kitchen cooking the at-home chef series. But I do have some new guests with us today for our live broadcast. So let me introduce Jordan Strine. He's our sous chef at the Left Bank. Jordan, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hello. As Mandy said, I'm sous chef. A lot of you might not recognize me because I'm in the back most of the time. I've been there for 6-7 years. What I do is a lot of the bulk prep in the mornings and help come up with recipes and specials. I cook a lot of the soups. So that's some of what I do. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make baked oysters.
Nice, awesome. I'm super excited, and he is being very he's being modest. He really cooks most of the amazing soups in the restaurant that people love and adore, including the famous bisques, the lobster bisques, the potato bisques, all those things. And then we've got Brittany with us again. So.
Hi. Happy First Friday. It's so exciting. I know we're indoors, but we're together here. I'm going to make mojitos for you today and a strawberry gin smash. So we're going to have some fun today for First Friday.
Oh, that sounds good. Those will be perfect cocktails as people wrap up Give Local York.
Yes.
So before we jump into Jordan's oysters, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the home chef's tables. So that's why Sean's not here today. He's actually in the kitchen, but I did take a picture of him so that way I could show you that he is hard at work, so you can get a glimpse of him. You only get to see him once a week. So he's making, actually for this chef's table, he's making cactus salad, which I did get some preview of. It's really delicious, as well as some corn tortilla tacos. This chef's theme for the next 2 weeks is actually a tour of Mexico. And like I said, I've got some previews of the dishes. It's delicious. The tacos are coming with a medley of a variety of chicken, beef, and cake. So all cooked to perfection and then brought to you curbside so you can put them into the oven and warm them up at your preference. The chef's table is also pretty exciting because you actually get to zoom into a virtual chef's table. So tonight, for the first time, we'll actually have 10 couples around the virtual chef table. You'll get to hear Chef Sean talk about the dishes, as well as mingle virtually. So it's the first time we're doing it, but we're excited to give it a try and see how it goes. You can also purchase tickets still for tomorrow and next weekend, which he's really excited about. So I guess we'll hand it over to Jordan now for his first time to do some demonstrations. Jordan, what are you cooking? You said, I think it's lemon and thyme baked oysters?
Yes. It's
Great.
not the baked oysters that we have on the menu, or we did have on the menu at the Left Bank, but it's just one of many options that you can use with baked oysters.
Oh, great.
Thyme and chive breadcrumbs.
All right, awesome. Well, we'll hand it over to you so you can try it.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, we're going to be making baked oysters. First step when you're making these baked oysters is we're going to make a compound butter. So basically, you just want to have some butter at room temperature. You can slightly microwave it to soften it up. You don't want it completely melted because you're going to be mixing ingredients in. You don't want them all to sink to the bottom. But it is a half a pound of butter. So you want to just have that slightly softened until it's just a nice kind of pliable consistency that you can evenly mix stuff into it. I'm going to slide my mic can down a little bit. So in the butter, like I said, this is a half pound, just slightly microwave to soften it up. You're going to add the juice of 1 lemon. You're going to add that in there. I'm going to save back just a little bit to add in the breadcrumbs. You are adding shallots and thyme. The shallots I minced very small, but you want to just sweat them slightly in a medium to low heat pan for about a minute, 2 minutes. Add your chopped thyme and then continue to saute for about another minute just to help cook out the aromatics and thyme a little bit, so it's not just dry spices going in there. So 1 medium shallot, about 5 thyme sprigs chopped, and that is slightly sauteed. I'm going to add that right into the butter. Also going to add about half a lemon of zest. The other half of the zest is going to go into the breadcrumb topping. So we're going to add half the zest in there. So shallot, thyme, lemon juice, lemon zest, and a healthy pinch salt and pepper. So you just want to mix that up. You can use like a fork, will help break up the clumps if there's any clumps left in the butter. But definitely doesn't need to look pretty. It's just going to get melted on top of the oysters. So once you have that mixed together, you're just going to set that off to the side. So we can top the oysters. The next thing is the breadcrumbs. So I have about a cup of panko breadcrumbs. You could use Italian breadcrumbs. You could use old croutons, slightly stale bread. You can just crunch it up and food process it or something. Just something to add some texture to the oyster. Fresh chives. I have about 5 pieces of chives here, just chopped into small rings. I'm going to throw them right in there. A little bit of salt and pepper. The rest of your lemon zest. That small amount of lemon juice that you reserved. And I would say about a teaspoon of olive oil. It just helps kind of get some color on the breadcrumbs. They toast up much nicer if you add a little bit of oil and a little liquid like lemon juice or something. So all you want to do is just want to mix that up and use your fingers. Honestly, to break up the lemon zest can kind of clump up. You just want to get in there and break that up a little bit. Just get an even mixture of your chives, lemon zest. Make sure the liquid's kind of evenly distributed on the breadcrumbs. All right, so that is done. Now we can move on to the actual oysters. I have a couple opened already, but I thought I'd show you kind of roughly how to open an oyster if people aren't comfortable with that, or something that you haven't done before. I got these oysters at Wegmans. They only had one kind when I was there, but I know sometimes they carry multiple different varieties. These are just Chesapeake Bay oysters. The reason that these would be good for baked oysters is because they have a firm texture. They are a medium to large cup. I would say medium cup, but they don't have a overly bitter or salty taste. They're fairly mild in the terms of oysters. So that's something that would work well for baked oysters. They're about $1 a piece, so it's not anything that's going to break the bank. But so shucking an oyster, you want to have a towel of some sort to keep the oyster from sliding all over the place and also to protect your hand. So you're also going to need an oyster shucker. They're not expensive, you know, on Amazon, grocery store, wherever. But the key is to have an oyster shucker that has a nice, comfortable handle and isn't going to slide out of your hand. Some of them have a little protector to keep your hand from sliding into the oyster. But if you're doing it the right way, that shouldn't happen anyway. But on the oyster, there's a small hinge right in the, you can see it right there. That's where you want to put your oyster knife. So you want to sit the oyster down on the table. I like to cover it with just the hinge showing to put your knife in. But this is also going to protect your hand. If you put too much inward pressure and your hand slides in, you're going to hit the towel and not a jagged oyster that's going to cut your hand and it's going to hurt. This is something that takes a lot of practice. You're not going to be perfect it takes a lot of time to get to the point where you're comfortable with it, but it's really not a daunting task. I think just a lot of people use too much force when they're doing it. So cover up your oyster. Take your oyster knife. If it has a bend in it, you probably want to put the bend in facing up to use the leverage. If the oyster is shaped really weird, you might have to put it in upside down just to get in the hinge right. So get your oyster knife in there. You don't want to push too hard into the oyster. Sometimes it'll slip right through the hinge and it's going to stab the oyster and scramble it, which you really don't want. So just enough that you feel like you have some leverage on that top shell. So common mistake is to just press down and try to pop it straight up. That a lot of times will just break the shell and then you're left with a bunch of pieces of shell. So what I like to do is just kind of turn my wrist and try to just pop that top shell loose. You'll feel it pop, but as soon as you just get that crease, you can go in with your knife. Make sure you wipe your knife off on the towel just so you don't get shell in the oyster. And then you can continue to kind of pry that top shell up a little bit. Once you have enough space, you can slide your knife in. You want to slide the knife along the top underside of that top shell and just free the little bit of oyster tissue that's still connected to the top shell. Once you take your top shell off, you're not going to need that. Just get rid of it. And that's what you're left with. Now, that's fairly clean on the inside. There might be some mud and stuff that you just kind of got to scrape away. You can rinse it with a tiny bit of salt water. But just kind of look under the oyster, make sure there's no shell in there. But then you want to take your oyster shucker and just go right underneath the connector muscle that's holding it to under the shell. Slide right underneath. And then you have your shucked oyster. Put that to the side. Got one more here. So just creating a little gap in the shell. Slide that knife in to separate it. Clean out any stuff. And then remove that muscle. So after you have your oysters shucked, you're going to be topping them with the butter. But if you're baking them, a little trick is to take a piece of aluminum foil. Hopefully you can see this. But you want to take it and fold it so that you have a kind of a slot so that the oysters can sit without all like that natural liqueur in the oyster from spilling out. It's also going to help the butter from not just leaking out as soon as you put them in the oven and the butter starts to melt. But I have two here already with a little butter on them. And then we're going to top these two. You just want to take your compound butter. You want to put about, I would say, a teaspoon or so, maybe 2 teaspoons on each oyster. Too much butter and it's going to be, all you're going to taste is butter. But about a teaspoon or so on each oyster. You can kind of flatten it out so that it melts a little more evenly on the oyster. So we have our butter on there. And then we're just going to add the breadcrumb mixture. You could add a lot of breadcrumbs. You could add a little bit of breadcrumbs. I prefer just a little bit to cover the top coating of the oyster. They add a nice texture and they get nice and golden brown and delicious on top. But just kind of lightly sprinkle that on there, flatten it out a little bit. All right, so we have our oysters topped. The only remaining process is to bake them off. I should have told you this at the beginning, but I have the oven set at 450. You could probably even go up to 475 if you have a convection, 450, 475. It'll just take a little bit less time if you have your oven at a higher temperature. So we're gonna pop these in the oven. And I have some finished that I can show you what they look like at the end. So here's an example of a finished product. So as you can see, the breadcrumbs are toasted on top. The oyster has firmed up slightly. It's a good way to tell that they're done is the breadcrumbs kind of get golden brown. The oyster will be slightly firmer. It's not going to be hard to the point that it's, chewy or anything, but it's just nice and firmed up. All of that liqueur is kind of absorbed into the oyster, and the breadcrumbs have slightly toasted. So as for garnish, we already have lemon in the butter and in the breadcrumbs, but a lot of people will garnish with lemon wedge. There's a lot of stuff. You could sprinkle a little bit Old Bay on there. You could do a dash of hot sauce. But there's so many possibilities for what you can do with baked oysters. That compound butter, you can add herbs, lime juice, citrus zest, orange juice. There's so many things. You could add a little white wine. But a compound butter is so versatile that you can use it for so many different things. You're going to have butter left over for this recipe. You can definitely freeze that. It'll be good in the freezer for a while. Some people put them in little ice cube trays, and then they're good to go in the freezer. You can pop it right on top of a steak or chicken or fish or something, just to add a little bit of moisture at the end. So that pretty much sums up baked oysters. They're going to take about 15 minutes in the oven. If you have a convection, it's going to take less time. But I've found that this size takes about 10 to 15 minutes until the oyster is kind of starting to cook and the breadcrumbs and the butter get melted and everything. So that is the baked oysters.
Nice. They look great. You have me missing sitting at the bar and ordering oysters during our happy hour.
I've been eating them a lot over the past couple of days, and I'm enjoying them a lot.
Yeah, I love our baked oysters too. And those were some really great tips. I didn't even think of the ice cube tray for the butter to put on steak, because the butter, like the big globs of butter on the steak, are always good.
Yes, I would recommend a silicone ice cube tray because it doesn't work well with the plastic ones. But
that's true.
You can pop it right out.
Oh yeah. Well, I know Sean popped his head in while you were talking. He's so proud of you, and doing this today and doing it live. You did such a great job. And for those of you who might not know, we have a couple of people who are commenting on, and one of them happens to be your brother, Josh Strine, who a lot of folks get to see in the front of the house, who were on tables. So we thought we'd make that connection because that's pretty interesting for folks who don't see you. So Brittany, I know you're going to go over a couple of cocktails. You've got a mojito and you have a strawberry cucumber smash, I think.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to have some fun here.
Awesome.
First, we're going to do the strawberry smash. So you'll need your glass first, and you're going to put a sugar-coated strawberry in there. And then take 2 cucumbers and a mint spring and throw that in there. And then next we're gonna put in 2 ounces of Hendrick's. I chose Hendrick's because there's cucumber made in it, so it will really bring out that flavor. And then next, just for a little bit of the elderflower flavor, you're going to put in a ½ ounce of Saint Germain, and we're going to muddle this up together. You want to muddle it till you see the strawberries smashed and the rinds of the cucumber are left. And then you can have your tumbler of ice. Put that in there and give it a nice good shake. For this drink, you're going to need a double strainer, which looks like this. It's that fine mesh strainer. And you're going to take your glass. We garnished it with a strawberry and a cucumber. So you put your regular strainer on the tumbler and hold the mesh strainer over top of your glass. And this will take out all the strawberry and cucumber bits, but it still gives it that nice vibrant color. And we're going to top it with a little bit of soda water. I have strawberry soda water. You can use whatever you have on hand. And there you have your strawberry cucumber smash. Cheers. Don't go too far because now we're going to make mojitos.
So I know we had a question from Bob Foster. So he was wondering what Saint Germain is. Do you mind explaining that?
It's an elderflower liqueur. So it sweetens up a drink. You don't need a lot to sweeten it up, but this way you're not putting a lot of simple syrup in a drink. A lot of those extra sugars, you're using the soda water, which is low in sugar and carbs as well.
Oh, nice. Good. Good. I know a lot of people have been asking us and messaging us through Facebook about some of the things we're hearing about to-go cocktails. And Brittany, you and I have been chatting about that. We're definitely excited to hear what's going to happen. You might have updates for the public. We don't know. We're waiting to find out.
I would love to serve all of you to-go cocktails. I would also like to take the cocktails to go, but I will be there first to serve them for you.
Everyone wants, let's see, they've been talking about the hot and dirty, the Manhattan Riff. They've been talking about so many of our famous cocktails. So let's hope. We'll see what happens.
I would love a hot and dirty right now. But instead we'll do a mojito.
Yep. So I'll hand it over to.
So you take your empty pint glass. You're gonna need 10 to 12 mint leaves. Put them in there. And you could either do an ounce of fresh lime juice or you could do about 2 or 3 limes. And we're going to put in an ounce of simple syrup as well. So equal parts on that. And then 2 ounces of white rum. Now, if you want, this is going to be a standard mojito once we muddle it. If you want to put in any flavor, you could do that. You can put in some mango nectar and have a mango mojito. Or if you want to take a little bit of the ingredients we just used in the last one, you can use the strawberries and you can muddle those in there as well. You could do a little bit of that. For the mojito, you don't need to strain it back in. You're going to pour it right into that glass. So this way you could see the mint leaves throughout. And we're going to throw a couple limes in there and mix it around. And then top with soda water. And we're going to garnish it with a lime and a mint spring. And you have a mojito. Cheers.
Oh, nice. I'm absolutely missing all of our bartenders. I don't know if you saw those big cardboard printouts that you can order. I have really thought about getting one of you and Megan to put behind my home bar because I'm really missing
your bar. So I would love to be there, cardboard or in real life.
It won't replace the cocktails, though. The cocktails are the important part. Well, I know as we wrap up today, I apologize for not being Chef Sean. I know so many of you want to see him, but you absolutely can get his food again because he does have the to-go chef's tables. We're calling them the at-home chef's table experiences. One of the other things he's got on the menu right now for the tour of Mexico are baked corn donuts. And he's making everything in-house, which is why he couldn't be here today. I'm really excited for him. You can still put in a purchase for tomorrow or next weekend. But I hope you guys take advantage of it. The other thing he wanted to make sure that we promoted were there are a lot of restaurants downtown that are offering to go. Central Family Restaurant, Revival, One Hospitality, Rockfish. And we certainly want to encourage you to support as many of our fellow restaurateurs in the community as they figure out how to get back to business. So before we wrap up, do you guys want to say anything else?
I wanted to say hi to the Regans. I miss you. I miss all my Wednesday people. All right, those are some of the guys I was very, very close with, so I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah. Jordan, you want to say to any hellos or goodbyes?
Sure. Hello to anyone that I know in real life that's watching this. But thank you for not judging me. But any Left Bank customers, thank you for being loyal customers and supporting the business during this hard time. I encourage people to go out, buy a gift card for a Christmas gift or something. That's something that can help restaurant now. When they can't sell you food in the dining room. And the chef's tables, it's a great way to still try Left Bank food. Looking forward to being back in the kitchen at the Left Bank.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you guys back either. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know we'll be back on again next week at 4 p.m. Sean's going to see if he can rearrange some of the prep. But this is just our first to-go chef's table. We really wanted to make sure everything was on point. But we're looking forward to seeing you again next Friday at 4 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, enjoy your first Friday, everybody. Thank you.
See you.